So when I was preparing for the homily, I was reading the first reading. I was like, okay, good. That's where I can focus, because I like all that they talk about it just in terms of Christian living. But then I read the gospel, and I was like, okay, no, that's the one I'm going to talk about. So anyway, I ended up having to change it in the last minute, because I think that when I was struck by with the gospel, so very briefly, is that excuses haven't changed. The world has changed. Obviously, we talk about how much things have changed. The human being and the reasons why we excuse ourselves from religion, religious practice, hasn't changed. When you take a look at the three excuses, the one, well, I purchased a field. And I was thinking, well, what would be that? I got a new house, my life is changing, I'm establishing my family, I've got things to do, and so therefore, let me be considered excused right now, maybe later. And then the second one is that he's got some oxen that he's just got, and then this idea, I was thinking, what's a contemporary definition, a relationship with that? And that's usually people who work, right? So he's got a new oxen, he's got to get his field together, and now he's got to work on this field. So oftentimes the great excuse is, I've got to work. That's why I can't do the religious practices that I should be doing. Can't give God the honor I should be giving, because I'm busy. I've got so much work to do. And then the third one is I got married, and I see that with sort of our young people, they're young. I hear poor parents excuse their children all the time. They're young. They're establishing their family. They've got kids, so much to do. And so really it hasn't changed. Whether you're young, establishing a family, or a life, or working, continuing to work, the excuses are the same. Why we give God these kinds of excuses to what we cannot do, what God asks of us, which is give Him due honor, due glory, due reverence and service. And so we, as one who is probably the king of excuses, I look up myself and I give God lots of excuses as to why I don't do what I know He calls me to do, why I don't do it with more fervor, with more attention, to help challenge all of us to take a look at this and the way we live our lives, and whether we are a victim of this world, or we really, and I've come to a conclusion for myself, I have a lot more power than I think I do in terms of what I can do and what God calls me to do. So hopefully, as you can see, that the excuses have been around since the beginning of time, right? Even Adam and Eve gave an excuse why they disobeyed the Lord, and it hasn't changed since. But it's been a challenge, I think, for all of us when we get ready to give our excuse as to why we don't do what we know God has called us to do as His creatures. Hopefully, we remember this very quickly, like, I'm only doing what human beings have done for a very long time as to reason why they don't give God the honor and glory and due that He deserves.